It's like, you're trying to keep up with what's going on in the world, but there's just so much news coming at you all the time, right?
It can be overwhelming, for sure.
Totally. And that's why we do this. Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to sort through all the noise and figure out what really matters.
Exactly.
Today, we're diving into a bunch of recent headlines, covering everything from global conflicts and politics to social issues, even a tragic accident or two.
Yeah, we've got a lot to cover.
Our mission is to basically connect the dots and see the bigger picture.
To help you understand what these snapshots of news really mean.
All right, let's jump in. Let's start with oh man, this is always a complicated one, the world of global conflicts and diplomacy.
Always.
One thing that really caught my eye was this reported naval ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine in the Black Sea. Now, what's interesting is it doesn't sound like they actually sat down together and hammered this out, right?
You're right, that's a key point. What we're seeing are separate agreements, with the U.S. playing a role in both. And the talks, those happened in Saudi Arabia.
So the U.S. is kind of acting like a go-between, huh?
Yeah, which is interesting in itself. You could see it as a way for both Russia and Ukraine to de-escalate things a little without actually, sitting down face to face.
Makes you wonder what each side is hoping to gain from this.
It does.
Yeah.
Maybe Russia wants to free up resources for other areas while Ukraine gets a bit of breathing room in the Black Sea. It's definitely a strategic move on both sides.
Definitely. Okay, let's stay in the region for a moment and talk about Gaza. There were reports of a huge anti-Hamas protest, the biggest since the war began, apparently. But then it was broken up by, masked Hamas militants.
Yeah, that really highlights the internal tensions there, doesn't it? You've got this protest, which suggests a lot of frustration, maybe even desperation, within Gaza, and then Hamas steps in to shut it down.
It's like they're really worried about losing control.
It could be. It makes you think about what's happening inside Gaza and how that might affect the wider conflict and the humanitarian situation.
It's a really complex situation, no doubt about it. Then in the West Bank, there was that awful attack on the home of a Palestinian filmmaker, an Oscar winner, no less.
Terrible situation.
And the co-director made a comment that really stuck with me. They said something like, all the international recognition doesn't help us on the ground.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it? It kind of shows the disconnect between global awards and the reality on the ground. You can be internationally acclaimed and still be vulnerable in a place like the West Bank.
It's like, what does international recognition really mean if it can't even protect you in your own home?
Exactly. It's a sobering thought.
Switching gears completely now. Let's talk about South Sudan. The UN has issued this really serious warning about a potential war breaking out. They're saying things could escalate very quickly.
And with reports of the army using barrel bombs against the White Army militia, it's clear things are already pretty bad.
Barrel bombs. That sounds absolutely terrifying.
It is. They're indiscriminate, meaning they can harm anyone in the area, civilians included.
Yeah.
The UN's warning is definitely not something to take lightly. It could have disastrous consequences for South Sudan and the entire region.
Yeah, it's a reminder that things can spiral out of control really fast. Okay, last one in this section. The U.S. has reportedly removed bounties on some key Taliban leaders.
Interesting development.
This comes after that meeting between U.S. officials and the Taliban to get that American tourist released. Do you think this signals a shift in how the U.S. is approaching the Taliban?
It could be. Maybe it's a way to build some trust, or at least open up channels for communication and cooperation on things like hostage releases. But it also raises questions, What does it mean for holding people accountable for past actions? It's a complex situation for sure.
Definitely a lot to unpack there. Okay, let's move on to some political developments, shall we? There have been some big protests in Turkey, really big. Apparently over 1,400 people have been arrested.
Wow, that's a lot.
And President Erdogan is saying that the protesters are just trying to cause chaos. But then we've also got the BBC raising concerns about freedom and democracy being eroded in Turkey, especially with this crackdown on the media.
Right, so you have this huge number of arrests, which suggests the government is really clamping down on dissent. And then you have these concerns about media freedom shrinking. It paints a pretty worrying picture, doesn't it?
It does make you wonder about the future of democracy in Turkey.
Absolutely.
Okay, next up, we've got this, I don't know what to call it, this strange story about a leak from President Trump's national security team.
A Signal group chat, wasn't it?
Yeah, a Signal group chat. Apparently, a reporter got added to the group by accident.
Oops.
Yeah, big oops. And there are reports that Vice President J.D. Vance was actually disagreeing with Trump in the chat.
Wow, that's an interesting peek behind the curtain. It raises some serious security questions, though, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, having a reporter in a top secret chat, not good.
Not good at all. And it makes you think, should government officials even be using platforms like Signal for sensitive stuff?
Good question. It's convenient, but is it secure enough?
Okay, sticking with President Trump, he also signed an executive order aimed at overhauling U.S. elections. He's talking about requiring proof of U.S. citizenship on election forms.
That's a big one. Election integrity is a huge issue, and this could have a major impact on how people register to vote and whether they can even vote at all. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it could make things more difficult for some people to vote.
Exactly, and it raises all sorts of questions about balancing security with accessibility in elections.
Now, north of the border, Canada is gearing up for a national election on April 28th. This comes after the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, called for a vote.
So, a pretty quick election after a change in leadership. That often means there's a strategy at play.
What do you think that strategy could be?
It's hard to say for sure, but maybe Carney feels like he has a good chance to solidify his position. Whatever the reason, this election is going to be a big deal for Canada.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Okay, still in North America, J.D. Vance is planning a trip to Greenland with his wife.
Yeah, it's already causing a stir.
Yeah, Greenland's leaders aren't too happy about it because of those comments Trump made about the U.S. potentially annexing Greenland.
Right, that didn't go over well at all. And it shows how long these kinds of diplomatic blunders can linger. Greenland is understandably sensitive about its autonomy, and Vance's visit is bringing all those old tensions back to the surface.
It's a reminder that you have to be careful with your words, especially in international relations. Okay, last one in this section. There are reports that India might have interfered in Canada's Conservative Party leadership race back in 2022.
Now, those are serious accusations.
Pierre Poilievre, who won the race, is denying it all, saying he won fair and square. But these kinds of allegations always raise concerns about foreign influence in elections.
Absolutely. It's vital to protect the integrity of democratic processes. It'll be interesting to see if any more evidence comes to light and how this develops.
Let's switch gears again to some of the more, tragic and somber news. There was a helicopter crash in South Korea during what they're calling the worst ever fires the country has seen.
Tragic news.
It really shows the dangers faced by first responders who are out there trying to protect people and property. The authorities are saying these fires are unprecedented. They're even threatening important cultural sites.
The fact that they're calling these the worst ever fires says it all, really.
Yeah.
The loss of the helicopter and the potential damage to cultural heritage is devastating. And it makes you think about the growing threat of extreme weather events around the world.
It's a reminder that climate change is having a real impact, here and now. Okay, we also saw some very disturbing reports from Sudan. The army is being accused of killing hundreds of people in an airstrike on a market in Darfur. Social media is full of images showing smoking ruins and, bodies. It's a horrifying reminder of the human cost of this conflict.
It is. Attacking a marketplace like that is completely unacceptable. Civilians should never be targets. It's crucial to protect them and hold those responsible for these kinds of atrocities accountable.
Absolutely. Now, over in Europe, there's been a development in that case that's been all over the news in France, the disappearance of little Émile Soleil in the Alps.
That case has really captured people's attention.
It has, and now his grandparents have been arrested in connection with his disappearance. It's a very sensitive situation, and it's hard to know what to make of it at this point.
Definitely a big development. It's a reminder of how complex these cases can be, and how even family members can sometimes be involved. It's going to be interesting and probably heartbreaking to see how this unfolds.
On a slightly lighter note, although still a serious issue, there's the story of this Bollywood actress who's finally been vindicated after facing a huge amount of negative media attention.
Yeah, I read about that.
After her boyfriend died, she was labeled all sorts of things: gold digger, even murderer. It sounds like she was put through the ringer by the media.
It's a classic example of how quickly public opinion can turn against someone, especially in high-profile cases. It highlights the power of the media, but also the danger of rushing to judgment.
It's a good reminder that there's often more to the story than what we see in the headlines. Okay, last one in this section. Papua New Guinea has banned Facebook.
Wow, that's a big move.
The government says they're doing it to limit the spread of fake news and porn, but a lot of people are criticizing the ban, saying it violates human rights and limits freedom of expression.
That's a tough one. On one hand, you can understand the government wanting to protect people from harmful content, but on the other hand, banning an entire platform like Facebook is a pretty drastic step. It raises all sorts of questions about censorship and internet freedom.
It's a really complex issue, and it's one we're going to see more and more of as the internet becomes even more central to our lives.
Absolutely.
Okay, before we wrap up, there were a couple of other notable things that happened. Two French air display jets crashed during rehearsal.
Oh, no.
But thankfully, all three pilots ejected safely and are okay. It could have been much worse.
That's a relief. It shows how dangerous these air displays can be, even with experienced pilots.
Also, Pope Francis made his first public appearance since being hospitalized back in February.
That's good to hear.
It's a positive sign that he's on the road to recovery. And finally, Prince Harry has stepped down from his role at Centabelle, the African charity he co-founded.
That's surprising.
It is, especially since he's so closely associated with the charity. There are reports of some kind of disagreement, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with Centabelle going forward.
Definitely.
We also came across a couple of interesting analysis pieces. The BBC had an in-depth article that looked at the challenges of achieving a lasting ceasefire in some of the conflicts we talked about.
Yeah, even with agreements in place, peace is still a very fragile thing.
Exactly. And there was a features article that took a really broad view, arguing that Trump's actions have basically disrupted the world order.
So looking at the big picture, the long-term impact on global power dynamics.
Right. It's making the case that we're seeing the emergence of a new world order.
That's a huge topic, and it's one that's going to be debated for years to come.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what really stands out to me is how interconnected everything is. You've got diplomacy happening alongside escalating conflicts, political tensions playing out both within and between countries, and then these powerful human stories of both tragedy and resilience.
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure.
It is. And when you look at it all together, certain things really jump out. That Signal chat leak, for example, gives you a glimpse into the inner workings of government that you rarely get to see.
And those wildfires in South Korea are a sobering reminder of the force of nature.
And those reports from Sudan, they really highlight the devastating human cost of conflict. Even the story of that Bollywood actress and the way she was treated by the media, it shows how powerful public opinion can be, for better or for worse.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. And so I want to leave you with this question. What are the underlying trends that you see emerging from all of this? What are the challenges that we need to be paying attention to? From the fragility of peace agreements to the evolving landscape of global politics to the constant presence of social media in our lives, there's a lot to consider. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thanks for listening.